Okay, so now that we've looked at how Fnatic were able to dominate H2K in the previous game, let's have a look at what happens when this strategy doesn't work quite as smoothly as planned, as in the game that they played against Gambit last week. So, going into picks and bans, we can see here from the bans that Fnatic banned Fizz, which is a target ban on Cabashard. Not one I liked particularly, but you can afford a throwaway ban versus Gambit. And for some reason they ban Ari, which I'm still not entirely sure about. I'm not entirely sure I even dislike giving up Ari to Betsy on this patch, because a lot of the champions that Fnatic like to play, a lot of the poke-based champions that they like to play in the mid lane are actually quite good against Ari. So I'm not entirely sure about that ban, especially because Betsy has shown a willingness to play Azir in previous weeks, and Lulu in fact. So I don't really understand the Ari ban. It would have made sense last season, but not really this season. The Shen ban is one that I really want to talk about though, and I'll go into this in more detail on the sort of beating Fnatic video, which the fourth video in the series, which will come later on today or either tomorrow. So, as we discussed in our previous two videos, Fnatic basically want to group as 4. They want to pressure the map, and they want to use this map pressure that they've developed to allow time for a scaling component within their team to scale up and to be powerful in the late game. So it's basically sort of a reverse split push strategy, where normally in a split push you would want your split pusher to apply pressure, whilst the other team on one side of the map, whereas the other team will then get objectives. Fnatic want to apply pressure with the 4 and then give their single person the time to gain objectives, which is basically time to scale up. So Shen is a pretty good counter to this style of play, as he can sort of ult in to one side of the map and teleport back to lane and continue to contest on two sides of the map at once. He can also sort of assist the mid lane split pusher without giving up too much pressure around objectives such as Baron. So normally, if Huni is on the late game scaling champion, if the other team is running a tank in the top lane or something, it will be their mid laner who's the one who will have to go and contest a split push. And having Shen in your team will allow you to have a 2v1 on the split push when Shen uses Stand United, and then he can teleport back after that contest, so that the other team don't risk losing pressure on Baron, which is something we've also talked about in the past. So Gambit's bans are actually pretty sensible against Fnatic, but not the bans that I personally would go for, but I can understand the logic behind the bans that they've taken. So if I just go and get this up, so
to get the utmost.
Whoops. Okay, so again, we'll go and have a look. I'll go and talk about this more in the next video. But basically, Gambit cannot. So let's go and look at the jungle bans first. So Gambit cannot or don't want to play Olaf, but they realize how important Sivir and Olaf are in the sort of speed up Olaf, engage composition that Fnatic like to run, and that Fnatic ran against H2K. So, so if Gambit don't ban Olaf here, Fnatic are going to first pick Sivir. Okay, by banning Olaf and by banning Rek'Sai, they challenge Reignover's champion pool and pressure Fnatic into picking the Gragas first pick, which allows Gambit later, as we'll talk about in the draft, to pick Sivir, which is a key champion for being played for and against the sort of poke-style disengage composition that Fnatic like to run. And this is a very smart ban, and Fnatic know that Gambit are more than capable of playing anything in the jungle, but more importantly, they know that Gambit are capable of taking the Gragas early and playing it top or support. So I mean, this is quite these two sort of jungle bans here, the Rek'Sai and the Olaf, are very, very smart bans against Fnatic, and the Rise they just ban as sort of like a scaling component. But what they do leave up for Fnatic is that they leave up the main disengage that they need in the composition, and they force Fnatic into taking the Gragas first pick, which is also another great disengage champion. And this is why I don't really like the Rise ban so much, Although I do like the Olaf ban, because the Olaf ban is basically saying we're trading Gragas for Sivir, which I think is quite smart. So anyway. So let's go and look at the team compositions. Okay, so for Fnatic here, we see sort of a modified version of the sort of poke disengage team that they ran against H2K in the last video. Well, in the game before this, in the day before this, in the last video. So they have Kalista instead of Sivir at ADC, and this means that the secondary disengage, which against H2K came from being able to use Sivir ult to basically run away, is fulfilled by the Gragas. So they have the double disengage, which they like to have, but here instead of Sivir Janna, it's coming from Gragas Janna. And here we have Echo fulfilling the sort of scaling top lane component, but basically it fills pretty much the same role as Ryze, both in providing AP damage from the top lane, providing decent scaling into the late game, and it's pretty much the same team composition, even though it's got different champions. So even though only one champion is the same, which is the Jace, Janna and Jace are the two champions which are left over from the previous composition, the team composition still has double disengage, still has scaling top lane, and it just uses a different ADC and modifies things around this. Very important to note here is that Fnatic decide to take the Janna over more traditional engage supports that you would normally see alongside a Kalista, which show that they heavily value this disengage in conjunction with Jace. So normally with a Kalista, you would expect to see something like a, I guess like an Annie or a Nautilus or some sort of hard engage, but this isn't what Fnatic are valuing. Fnatic are valuing the disengage and the poke, and this is very typical Gambit team composition. However, if we compare Gambit's composition to H2K's composition, this is a far superior team composition for fighting Fnatic's style of poke disengage. So they have three forms of hard engage. So we have the Hecarim, who can engage with home card TP. We have the Sivir, and we have the Sivir into Annie Flash Tibbers, and we have sort of the Lee Sin kick as three forms of primary sort of hard engage that they can use to engage onto this poke composition. And their team composition scales just as well as Fnatic into the late game, because they have this Azir. They have this Azir here to provide them with late game damage. So whereas the H2K composition is going to fall off late when Varus's effectiveness is reduced, whereas the Corki is going to be also going to fall off a little bit into the late game. Gambit's team composition does not fall off into the late game. Sivir still provides a huge amount of damage late from AD carry. They still have the hard engage from the Hecarim and the Lee Sin, so it doesn't matter that they're building tank because they're being used to engage on the poke composition. And it's also very smart because in standard lanes, Hecarim is very, very good against Echo. And in the lane swaps, if they swap lanes, Sivir is going to push faster than Kalista early game, and Annie roams better than Janna, and so this is a very, very good pick ban phase from Gambit's coach. Personally, I would prefer them banning Janna, which I'll talk about further in the next video, but I think it's a very, very smart pick ban, and I think it's a very, very good strategy that Gambit have, and it's much better than what H2K were planning. Okay, so let's go and have a quick look into the game, and again, like the H2K game, I'm going to just cover this game in pretty brief detail because I'm just using it to describe the game. So
once we get into these team fights, Gozo Pip also starting the boots again. He likes to do it. Makes him a lot weaker in the laning phase. Or well, it makes him weaker in the laning phase, but he likes it because it opens up his potential to roam.
Yesterday.
That's true. That one.
So basically, I
the
can't really agree with Edward's logic for these boots. I mean, you get a small amount of early pressure, but basically you delay your Talisman of Ascension a lot, which hurts Annie considering how important Talisman of Ascension is in the sort of mid-game sort of team fights. And I think that I mean you do gain a little bit of pressure early, but you know, delaying the Talisman and delaying your mid-game power spike on Annie is too severe, and that's why I think that you can't really start boots.
0 kills, 0 deaths, 29 assists. As Yellow Star's going to get the information from that ward, And we'll see how Fnatic
Okay, so Fnatic expecting the lane swaps. Fnatic as usual hoping to lane swap early.
This is scary.
Don't tell anyone.
I mean, Gambit lose a pot here, but I mean it's not the end of the world. I mean, so what happens here is we see this is a game no lane swaps. So this is actually quite a good situation for Gambit, as I was saying before. They're going to lose the 2v2 top bot lane, but you know the support and AD carry lane. But they're going to win the 1v1, and this means that Cabashard, who's very good at using teleport, is going to be able to apply pressure on the map, and Forgiven, who's a very strong mechanical ADC, is more than capable of farming up and playing defensive. Note that Fnatic cannot fast push towers in this sort of situation as they could in a sort of 2v1 or 4v0 lane push situation. So yeah, so they've got the 2v2 lanes and the 1v1 lanes, but this works specifically because their top lane is very good against Fnatic's top laner, and this is going to stall out the game a little bit.
Diamond in Fnatic's half. Only level 2 there for both Reckless and Yellowstar.
So here we see already Fnatic pushing their advantage in the top lane, which is to be expected.
This is what Fnatic, this is what Gambit prefer. They look for those standard lanes. They'll look to see which jungler can have a bigger impact in the game. As we see Diamond may be able to jump onto Featherman if he's spotted.
Normally this is what Gambit prefers, but in this case here it's gonna be tricky still against a Kalista Janna lane. Reckless already playing very aggressive. We can see Forgiven falling behind. As we mentioned earlier as well, he won the lane last time, but that was Sivir into an Ezreal.
Okay, I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit.
Competition in that lane.
As with
okay, so pretty much a standard early game start. But here we see the first gank here by Diamond, and this is a very good gank by Lee Sin. Well, we'll go and watch a gank. So he gets a flash, but more importantly than that, because he cleaned the camps on the blue side jungle, so he took this wolf camp and he took the Gronk. Gambit can immediately know that Gragas is bot lane, and therefore Hecarim backs off. So we see Hecarim back off immediately here. Well, or go out of view immediately here. And the reason why he then sticks around, because after he manages to get this trade, he realizes that if Gragas comes in, that he can probably trade his life for Echo's life, which is actually pretty good. So even though Cabashard doesn't have an escape summoner, a mobility summoner, he probably just assumes that he can trade 1-for-1, but they know where Gragas is because of that Lee Sin pathing earlier on to go top.
We're not expecting too much to happen from this lane except for a misplay or jungler intervention.
Right. The only thing that's going to happen is Betty can keep pushing it into the tower. He has more tools to clear the waves.
So I think one thing's worth talking about here, actually, I'll talk a little bit about Gambit. I know this is supposed to be a video on primarily on Fnatic, but I mean, basically, it's worth noting how much better Gambit's ward coverage is compared to last split. And this shows that their new coach is already doing a really good job. So we can see here that Gambit already have a nice defensive line of wards here, which is just something that they wouldn't have had in earlier splits. In the previous split, they just didn't have it. So I mean, I think that shows that they're improving and they're definitely looking strong coming into the latter part of the season.
But this time around, Gambit has cleared out a few of them, placed their own ward, so it should slow down Fnatic at least a little bit. Now Rainover though, it's going to be spotted moving in behind. There's still 2 flashes for Gambit.
So Gambit do react the moment Rainover came into sight. He should be
so Gambit spot Gragas coming top.
Treading the line.
Okay, and here you see a very smart response here to Gambit from the gank. You see Annie hiding away and Sivir coming bot, as the commentators say. But I think the important thing is it shows that the synergy between Forgiven and Gosu Pepper or Edward is actually improving quite a lot. To just go and make the sensible play here, and it shows that Forgiven is actually capable of playing Sivir. I mean, they make quite a good smart play, but it shows that it shows how quickly they react to the gank. This is basically a team composition. You know, this is Sivir is an ADC that Forgiven is comfortable running if it's in the meta and if Gambit need him to run it.
7 of their 9 games.
Okay, so if we just go back a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about Hecarim here. So, if we look at Hecarim here at the bottom of the map, I want you to note the ward from Hecarim. So this is a minor misplay, but it's a mistake that I didn't even notice the first time I watched this map. This match. So firstly, actually, it's amazing that Kabashad actually has a ward 8 minutes into the game, sorry, compared to last season. But more interesting is where he's placed it. So he's placed it in the tri-bush to prevent an echo follow for the gank he's about to make mid. And I actually don't like this ward at all. I think he should be placing it sort of here, next to Raptors or behind Dragon. Because Fnatic because Gambit started on the bottom side of the map, they know that Fnatic's red is about to come up. And having the ward in this bush or in this bush here will benefit them in fighting for it, so during their sort of early game power spike advantage. So Hecarim with a Phage is much more powerful than an Echo with basically cooldown reduction boots and a Doran's ring. So they can easily get this red buff here, or they can gain a lot of security over this jungle if he wards somewhere else. And it doesn't really matter if Echo follows, because you know Hecarim is so much stronger than Echo at this stage in the game, and with this set of items, that even if Echo comes up and tries to contest here, then it doesn't really matter. So I mean, he should be placing it here or here. And Gambit can sort of see two people on the map right now. Well, they can't. Well, they know that Janna is recalling it, and they can't. But they know that if Fnatic's bottom lane, they know that Fnatic's bot lane is likely to come back top, because Echo is farming here safely underneath the tower. And if they're going to do a lane swap, it would be likely that Echo would recall here, in which case they don't need to worry about... In which case it's much more important that Hecarim wards here or here in order to prevent the potential bot lane roaming into this jungle to contest this red buff. So the red buff is the next objective, but Hecarim is warding here, and he's putting a ward that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because Echo can follow him to do the gank mid, but the main objective is this red buff here, and he should be warding either in this bush or this bush, to prevent bottom lane coming in, intruding on what Gambit are about to do, or he should be warding behind Dragon so that they can go and try to get the Dragon when Lee Sin completes his jungle path. So his jungle path will end here. By placing this ward here, it doesn't actually benefit Gambit in any way, because Echo, even if Echo follows, Gambit is still going to be much more powerful. So,
secured first blood. Oh, that was a little close.
So this is a minor mistake, but this is sort of a mistake that you would expect from a team which is not really comfortable in playing sort of the map control game, and this is something which Gambit are improving on this season. But it's something that they still have to work on. But it's not a mistake you would see sort of from the better sort of map control teams, such as H2K in Europe or somebody like Edward Gaming in China or SK Telecom. And this is the big difference. So if you notice the bush here.
We have to highlight that Gambit are holding themselves even for the...
So if you notice the bush that Gragas wards into, there. So notice here that Gragas wards into this bush. Now if Hecarim had warded into this bush, that would have been enough to dissuade Rainover from coming into this jungle, and Gambit would have been able to dominate this jungle. Because remember that Lee Sin hasn't been seen on the map for a couple of minutes. And if Gambit had been warding up here, if Rainover had seen the ward being warded here, there's no way he comes into this jungle. It's just way too risky. And they would have been able to pressure the side of the map without giving up too much. So that's why I disagree a little bit with the ward that Kabashad plays.
So, small advantages here for Gambit. Got a CS advantage in the top lane.
But it's worth saying that even, you know, despite everything, Rainover is still slightly concerned about checking the side of his jungle. It's only when Betsy leaves his jungle and goes to his blue that he knows that he knows where Diamond is, because they see Betsy go off to the blue, which means that Gragas can immediately ward the river, and therefore he knows that he's safe to go and get his red. But he's not able to go and get the red before that. It's too risky. It's too risky a situation, and Gambit don't sort of think in this way. They're not thinking that far ahead compared to some of the teams which are more comfortable at playing sort of the early game map map control pressure game. And this is something which Gambit have to work on, but it's worth saying, noting Reignover's path. So as soon as he sees Azir come to the blue, he immediately goes in wards and then goes for his red, but he doesn't go before because he knows that there's a huge likelihood that Lee Sin is waiting for him in that jungle. So there we go.
Relatively quiet. Diamond has got some flashes though, so he's keeping himself relevant.
And you have two junglers now who needs to decide. Okay.
Now we contrast this immediately with Gambit. So Gambit see Jace leave the mid lane, but they don't go straight for Dragon. Despite the fact that they see two people top and they know that as a 3 they're more powerful as a 3. So if this was Fnatic would definitely, you know, a team that is comfortable playing the early map here and getting objectives would have gone straight for this Dragon. Because Azir can take Dragon really quickly and Lee Sin can tank it. And that's basically just a free Dragon they give up on map control. And in fact, even if Hecarim had placed this ward here, they would know exactly where Gragas was, and they would be able to go and make it. So.
Summoner spells were used. Reignover is in trouble. He gets caught by the Sonic Wave, and Diamond gets knocked backwards.
So it's just it's a tiny thing, but it just shows a little bit about how things are.
Take a look. Onslaught of Shadows, Cabo shot, he's going to pull the trigger this time round. The focus is Reckless. He's going to get knocked backwards as the Monsoon is a little late to the party. Reckless will be taken out for...
So this is sort of simply Gambit playing around with their early game advantage very well. And this is something which Cabochard does. His teleport gangs are really strong. And to be honest, I'm not really sure that Huni should be teleporting in here. He's not going to be able to contribute anything. I mean, he has no items. He has no damage items. He has a Doran's Ring and you know, a mana regen item and cooldown boots. So he's not going to be able to contribute anything in this fight. So his teleport is basically just a waste of time. And you know, this is sort of Cabochard. This is sort of Gambit's strength. Cabochard really teleport gangs very well. So it's just you know, good solid play by Gambit and punishing Fnatic's sort of early game weakness that they have in their scaling component in the top lane.
Two kills. Top tower down in a losing lane matchup, by the way. Forgiven has been behind all lane long, and that's where Gambit strikes. Really well played.
Well, definitely the case. Cabo really an interrupter for a moment. Nothing really gained here for Fnatic. But what a great play! Gambit starting this match off as massive underdogs. Remember, Fnatic...
So here we see the sort of long-term benefits of that teleport gank top. So because of Cabochard's well played and well thought out teleport gank top, Gambit are able to get 2 kills, they're able to get the tower, and they're able to get Dragon. And this is all off just one sort of very smart teleport play, which is exploiting the weakness here that Fnatic have in the early game, which they've chosen to build into their team composition. Because Fnatic like their team composition to scale, especially out of top lane. So Gambit have realized that they have this strength, this advantage on the map in their top laner, and they use this to go and get a huge number of objectives. So that's good play by Gambit, and this is sort of how you have to go about beating Fnatic. This is how you punish the weak sort of scaling component. So this I actually feel is a mistake here from Betsy. So I've said this in previous videos on Gambit, but I really don't like Betsy's sort of aggressive use of towers to push when Gambit are not pressuring elsewhere on the map. So if he delays this tower by sort of 45 seconds, 60 seconds, then Gambit can be in bot lane and they can be pushing the tower bot, and he's either going to be able to threaten the second tier mid, or he's going to be able to rush bot. But because he places this tower so early, they're not able to get anything. And he does get the single kill, and it's true that you know, people aren't able to, that Jace isn't able to follow up on this. But if he just waits 30 to 60 seconds, they get this tower here. They get this tower here. So.
He flashes away. No, I'm lying. The cooldown's much longer. Huni is going to be able to get out clean.
But I mean, generally, although I don't like the strategic map play use of his towers, I do think that he is a pretty good Azir player. So I just want to say that. So that's good play by mid, but it shows sort of how far behind Huni is right now, compared to, I mean, basically he's behind on CS. He has no damage items, no completed major item, and Gambit are in a really strong position right now, because they've been punishing Fnatic sort of early game. And one of the things that we're saying is that because Fnatic are behind from the early game and they're playing against the Sivir, they can't group and push objectives to give Huni the safety that he normally needs to farm up. So normally Huni can farm safely, knowing that the other team are going to have to contest his team before, and that's why he's pushed up. He's so used to being ahead, that's why he's pushed up so aggressively here. But of course, Gambit have the Sivir, they're ahead, and that means that they can push early, and you know, their bot lane is more than capable of playing safely. Despite the fact that Gosu Pepper and Forgiven are very good aggressive bot lane, they're also capable of playing very defensively. But this here is a massive mistake, and this is something which actually really annoys me about what Gambit did this game. So Gambit are a long way ahead. They've applied a lot of pressure on the map, and then they go and do this. So they get the kill here, and then Diamond goes and counter jungles. He goes and counter jungles Reign over his jungle. He counter jungles the jungle, and this means that they don't get to trade the level 2 turret for the level 1 turret. And this makes no sense. If Lee Sin is here, they get this tower, and they get to escape. Look, so they're gonna now tank up the turret, and it's going to lead to an absolute disaster when Huni gets back to lane. This tower has gone down 10 seconds ago if Diamond doesn't go and counter jungle this jungle for no reason. You see, Huni is a mile behind, he has no completed items at all, and here he gets a double kill because they're down there on low life because they've been tanking the tower. If Diamond just doesn't counter jungle here, they get a free level 2, well, they trade the level 2 tower for the level 1 tower bot, and the level 2 tower is harder to get, and they don't let Huni back into the game. And this is one of the frustrating things about a lot of the teams in Europe. They just make so many stupid mistakes that don't make any sense. And like, I don't like this. This isn't a play mistake. This is just like a misunderstanding of the key things in the game, the most important things in the game, the most strategically important things in the game. So to Diamond, it's more important to counter jungle here instead of taking this tower, and that must be extremely frustrating for Gambit's coaching staff to look at. But anyway, just to say, yeah. So I don't know what to say about this. Basically, the tower 100% goes down and they don't give up any kills. They're 4-0 up. They have 3 towers to 2. They're cruising. But this sort of gives Fnatic sort of a way back into the game, which they didn't have before. Note also, actually, sorry, I just got to pause here, that if Huni had his tower here from earlier, if he hadn't played the towers aggressively, he could have been able to rotate here. But because he doesn't have the tower anymore, Jace is able to push him in, and therefore Jace is able to rotate here and give help to and give assistance to Huni in the bot lane. Which, I mean, Huni got the double kill without any assists, but even if he hadn't managed it, Jace would have been here a long time before Azir. Where if Azir had this tower up, he would have been able to roam here and block Jace off. So he would maybe have been able to disengage Huni, or maybe have been able to trade a kill back or something like this. So this is what I'm talking about Huni. About Betsy using up his towers aggressively. Whereas the towers are a very important tool and very important part of Azir's kit, and not something which you should necessarily just throw away like he does. So whatever. So let's go and continue into the kill.
Take a look. Huni, he's used phase dive already. One of his dashes, there's no flash available.
So here, Huni has got the double kill, but he hasn't gone back to buy, I think. And this is sort of Gambit punishing Huni's sort of over aggression. And this is something which Gambit do actually. They can be a little bit over aggressive when they shouldn't necessarily be with their items. And sometimes this works, but here they just sort of punish it. So at this moment, although Fnatic have the double kill on Huni, their game plan sort of looks like it's falling apart here.
Tried to turn around with February, but they couldn't get the kill instead. Another one for Gambit. A lot of damage on this mid tower though, because nobody's here to defend. Betsy went back to base, and Forgiven was sitting in the bottom lane, so Fnatic will be able to take a tower for it.
Gambit want to be the gatekeepers.
But note how Gambit are trying to fight this game. So they're punishing over aggression. They are punishing the sort of scaling component of the team. They're aggressively, using their Hecarim to go and put pressure on the map. And this is how you have to play to beat Fnatic. And this is not something which H2K did, successfully at all in their game. And this is partly down to team composition as well. So. So this tower, compared to Azir's last tower, this is a very smart tower. So he places this tower here, which means that mid lane is going to be pushing, which means that they can rotate here to the bot lane. They can rotate to bot lane, and then they can go and take dragon. And this is a very smart tower here, because it means Azir can hold mid lane against however many people want to push. Gambit can then go and take bot lane. You see they're already preparing here. They're already, prepping the jungle, and then they can rotate to dragon. So this is a smart use of tower. And this is, you put the Azir tower up, and you use this to go and get objectives somewhere else on the map. Just generally good, smart play. Good, smart play from Azir. And you see, you have good mechanical play. So Betsy is a very good mechanical player, but his weakness has never been mechanics. It's always been about map awareness and map control. So.
Trevor here, Gambit is still pushing in. They had the wave from before. They still have teleport and Cabochard as well. Fnatic, they're very far away, so 1-for-1 in kills.
But they get 2 towers over it instead of tower and dragon, because Fnatic chase them.
Play gatekeepers and they want to maintain control. Goes to Pippa, flash, exhaust, Tibbers is all available. He's going to throw it onto Rainover. Here comes the rest of Fnatic. Parallel convergence should be able to stun up too.
So this is very good play by Diamond. Zoning out the two sort of disengage.
This fight. He does have that hologram to jump back to. He gets damage onto Cabo.
Okay. So this is good play by both teams here, but it's especially good play by Diamond. So if we go back and have a look at this fight here, so let's pause the. Okay, so this is the new Gambit who ward, who understand map pressure, who understand map control, but who are still learning, right? So they've got this jungle warded here, and they know that there's 3 of them here, and they know that they're being surrounded by 4 people. Okay. So look at how they play this. So they know that it's going to be a 4-on-4 because they know that Hecarim can go and TP in. So as soon as Gambit see the people converging on bot lane, Hecarim immediately recalls so that he's going to have the home guards for his teleport gang. However, Fnatic arrive before Cabochard can recall to base. So he immediately has to teleport in. But the point is that he was already recalling to base in preparation for the teleport gank, just in case Fnatic don't arrive or Fnatic delay. Cabochard is going to be able to come in and teleport with home guards. And again, this is one of the reasons why Cabochard is one of the top sort of mid laners in the West. He's very, very good with his teleport ganks, and his map awareness is very, very good compared to Betsy's in the mid lane, which isn't as good. But of course, Betsy is improving a lot now, and this is one of the reasons why there's good reason to be optimistic for Fnatic in the future. So that he sees them coming, immediately starts his recall, realizes that he's not going to be able to recall in time, and then teleports bottom. Okay, so let's look at this fight. So immediately note how Fnatic are playing a poke composition here, okay? They're playing a poke composition where Huni got that double kill earlier, which he shouldn't have got. I mean, if Huni didn't get that double kill earlier, he's useless in this fight, but he did get the double kill because of Diamond's decision to counter jungle instead of taking that turret. But here, Diamond does very, very well. So here is Fnatic's disengage. So because Fnatic are running a poke composition, they rely heavily on their disengage in order to protect their carries. However, Diamond immediately zones both the disengage and ensures that that Gambit have a 3v2 advantage here. Okay, so immediately gets Yellow Star away from the fight and kills Grotto. Yeah, okay, so is able to separate the disengage from the fight, which means that here Gambit are fighting 2v2. However, Cabochard is much, much, much stronger than anybody else is on the map at the moment, except for maybe Azir. So they trade 2 for 2 in what is becoming a surround, in what could have been a disaster in a surround thing because of Cabochard's heads-up teleport play. And this is good play by Huni here, not to die. Okay, so there would have been a decent chance, you see, so if that had hit, he dies immediately. So it's good play by Yellowstar and it's good play by Huni to use he uses the passive, the Janna passive, in order to get the speed boost he needs to be able to escape on the W. So it's good play by both sides here, but it's particularly good heads-up play by Gambit, and especially by Cabochard. But there's 2 things to note here about how the game is going. Firstly, the shutdown gold from Azir back in the mid lane here went onto Jace. So this is going to speed up Jace's ability to snowball into the to accelerate into the mid game. And secondly, Gambit are now down their teleport for the next few minutes and are going to have to play appropriately. And they don't manage to do it. And this is one of the reasons why Fnatic are able to come back into this game. So Fnatic know that the teleport is down, and they're going to exploit this lack of a teleport. And Gambit don't play appropriately for the fact that they have a teleport down, despite this good play. And despite the good pressure that they got mid. So, there's a 3,000 lead here now, so a lot of the top Eastern teams will be able to close games out here from this situation. Okay, so again, here you see the TP. Very good play here from Diamond to zone the disengage. So even though Febiven gets a very good combo off here, he still dies. And Cabochard is so strong at this stage in the game and Huni is so far behind, despite his 2 kills, that they're able the Gambit are able to sort of tie in this fight, in a fight where they start off in a very, very weak position. Okay. I'm going to pause again here. So here we see Fnatic setting up for their Baron play. So at this point, Gambit are a mile ahead now and should be able to close out this game, considering that they have heavy engage from Hecarim and they have Sivir. Okay, so all they have to do now is group with Sivir and push down objectives, whilst Hecarim split pushes. Instead, what's going to happen is Fnatic are going to go and take the Baron. And here is where Fnatic take the Baron. Okay, so here you see Rainover already setting up for Baron. He goes for this Raptor camp, so he's going to have the Oracle's Elixir, and he's going to sweep this area. And of course, because Gambit have spent all their time in the mid-bot side of the map, they have no wards around Baron. But by taking this camp, Rainover is going to be able to prove it. His presence here is also a good presence, just in case Azir and Lee Sin decide to rotate top. He can delay them with barrels and with his ultimate, if these two need to disengage and run away. So, Rainover searching up, they realise that Azir isn't here, so Azir probably has recall. And immediately go for Baron once they see Sivir in the bot lane. And this is really bad play by Gambit, unfortunately. So this is a risky Baron for Fnatic, because they don't 100% know where Azir is, and indeed if Azir had bought sort of home guards, he could have been back to contest this Baron before it goes down. But there's no reason here for Forgiven to be bot lane with Sivir. There's just no reason. And Azir and Annie both being in base at the same time, ADC showing bot, no wards around Baron. Like, this is just pretty poor by Gambit. And yeah, I mean, that's all there is to say. It's just, there's no reason. This goes on whoever the shot caller is. The shot caller has to say, Sivir cannot be bot at the same time as our Azir equals. Because Fnatic are a team which like to go for early Barons, and we're risking giving up an early Baron.
Early Baron, they place a pink ward, and if they don't expect you to have any wards nearby, they just...
And again, this Fnatic, again, like as I said from the last video, Fnatic here with the Callisto and the Jace, allowing them to have the damage for early Barons. And this is where sort of Gambit throw their lead. They throw their lead here because they don't put any ward pressure on here, and they don't have the clearness of mind to know that this is a risk that Fnatic are likely to go for. I mean, all they had to do here to win this game is group with Sivir, put Sivir in the top lane, and just wait until their teleport is up, get a slow push in the bot lane, and then start to pressure Baron themselves. And instead, their AD carry goes bot lane, and I mean, nothing else to say. It's just.
I think
it literally just spawned. It's like, hello, I'm Baron, now I'm dead.
A very serious argument could be made that Fnatic have the best Baron calls.
A really serious argument could be made that Fnatic have the best Baron calls. Fnatic have taken the most Barons and are a team that prioritizes Baron. No. No, really? I never guessed. Okay, anyway. So the point is that now Fnatic is still behind in gold despite this Baron, but they're they can use this to push towers. But here we see the advantages in the intelligence of Gambit's composition versus the composition that H2K ran the day before.
It's got all the poke from Febiven's Jason, the wave clear from Gambit. Obviously fairly lengthy with that Azir and Sivir, assuming they don't get poked out.
Also, remember, Gambit
So again, Fnatic doing what inverted commas seems like the rational thing to do, which is to use their... But immediately, Gambit show why their team composition is so scary.
Massive one combo, you can just do it like this.
They're going in, Reckless has been stunned up and he's taken out. Cabashot's got the first kill as Huni is trying to put damage on the back line. He's already used the chrono break to get away as Betsy has dropped the partner. But that's a double kill from the shock blast as Febiven is trying to save Fnatic's hopes. He's got the hammer out.
Okay, so let's go and have a look at that fight again in slow motion. So again, the situation is Fnatic have just taken Baron, and they're using this Baron to push towers to go and equalize the gold disadvantage. So, however, they're punished because even though they have the Baron buff, they're still behind in gold, and Gambit's composition is very, very good against Fnatic's composition. So they have a lot of damage from Azir, Hecarim at this stage in the game. They have very good hard engage from Sivir and Flash Tibbers from Annie, and they have very good secondary a secondary primary engage from Lee Sin. And all of this comes into this fight. So let's go and have a quick look at what happens in this fight. And this is really, really well played by Gambit, and it looked like Gambit had thrown their lead, and then I thought, okay, Gambit are going to close the game out, because it shows that they do understand how to play their composition. So we have the flash engage here from Gosu Pepper, which immediately kills Reckless, and then you see Diamond here using his kick very, very, very well. So he gets the kick, hits Febiven, he hits Yellow Star into Febiven, which means that they can now chase down Gambit. I mean, because Gambit aren't going to escape there. He's not going to be able to escape from the Hecarim, and that's why he goes back in. And it's just very well played here, very well mechanically played from Azir. But this shows why engaging Gambit's composition is so good against what Fnatic are trying to do. So yeah.
Instant 5-on-5. Fnatic in the end tried to return some damage with him. We're just going to see the whole
thing. So you see the flash engage here from Edward. Immediately kills one of the carries. Diamond immediately takes, hits Febiven in. So that's the second carry. Remember, Huni is still quite weak at this stage in the game, still scaling up. And then the good play by Betsy ensures that they pick up the third carry. But even if they hadn't managed to get Chase there, that was still a very, very good fight from Gambit against a Baroned up team, remember. Okay.
Excellent start again. Gambit all of a sudden.
So let's just pause here I'm not going to pause the video, but let's pause here to think how Gambit needs to play to win this game. So Fnatic can wave clear very safely at this point, now that Kalista has Runan's Hurricane. And with Kalista and Jace, they can wipe waves out immediately. So what Gambit have to do is they have to split push to win. So what they should be doing is they should be slow pushing one wave, then going in a 1-4 split, or maybe going in a 1-1-3 split with Azir mid. Okay, and with Baron up in 4 minutes, they should start warding Fnatic's blue side jungle around 90 seconds after it comes up. So they should take the dragon, because Fnatic aren't going to be able to fight them over dragon, because they're still stronger at this point in the game. And then they should immediately go and ward up this Baron area. And that's how Fnatic should try to win the game. And what they should do here is they should slow push this minion wave here. So Hecarim should come down, should clear all the range minions, and have this slow pushing here. What this means is that this wave will be around here when Gambit are taking the Baron, taking the Dragon, which means Gambit can take Dragon and immediately come here and ward Fnatic's blue side jungle for when Baron comes up. And this is the sort of smart way to win the game. And this is how the sort of teams which are more used to playing control style of League of Legends, this is how they would try to win. Instead, what we see is Hecarim clears the wave immediately, so it's not slow pushing anymore. It's just a wave which is going in here, whereas he should have just been killing the range minions only. He kills all the minions, so that's a mistake here by Hecarim. And then here we see the second Gambit throw.
after Huni. Seeing if he can land a stun. Goes to Paper
Which is
Boss.
a shame because Gambit really
Let's
played
see
this
for
game very,
Gambit
very
as
well.
A lot more focus on what is our
So we
objective.
see
Okay, that's
Jace
where we
poker beginning
invest
to hurt
all
here.
our wards.
And then Betsy goes and
This
recalls
time
in this
around,
bush.
it's near the dragon. Fnatic though very quickly cleared it out because now Gambit weren't there to protect them, had to
Like,
run away.
I mean, there's so much wrong with this, and I'll go out what's wrong here. So, from Betsy's perspective, like, why would you recall in this bush? Like, why would you not just stop your recall once they place this ward here? It's a shutdown kill for Jace. Like, it's a 600 gold on, the main carry, the main poke champion in Fnatic's team composition. And he's the one person Gambit don't want to be fed. And like Betsy, in that team fight before, which Gambit wins, where he gets a triple kill, he makes a really, really good play. And he makes so many good mechanical plays. But his decision making and map awareness can be so frustrating sometimes to watch. And this dragon, which now Fnatic are going to be able to take for free, is a key dragon because it's the Fnatic's first, so it means that we're now quite late into the game, so the percentage boost to attack damage and AP is a big thing. And for Gambit it's huge because it's the third dragon, so it gives speed boost to the team, which means it boosts Hecarim's attack, and it means they're going to be able to engage more easily on a team composition, which is trying to disengage and poke. So this dragon is so important. And here we see the consequences of Hecarim pushing the wave. So the wave is here, now back here. Whereas if Hecarim had just cleared the range minion, this wave would be here, and somebody would have to be here to try to clear the wave. As it is, they give up the dragon, and this. Remember what I was saying earlier about how Gambit have to try to win the game. They have to slow push this wave, take the dragon, and then immediately rotate and ward this side of the jungle up so that they can pressure Baron and force Fnatic to come to them so that they can fight. They can fight them because they really want to fight them now. Because they are still more powerful. Mainly because at this point in time, Fnatic are a 1.5 threat team. I mean, Huni does a lot of damage to a single target. Jace does a lot of damage, but Kalista is really far behind in this game and doesn't really do that much damage at this point, but will scale up later. Whereas the gold the gold here amongst Gambit is split, reasonably easily, and you don't need Sivir to deal a huge amount of damage. And indeed, with Affinity Edge and Static Shiv, Sivir is actually going to do quite a lot of damage at this point in the game anyway. But because Betsy dies, they're not able to set this up properly. Fnatic are going to go get this dragon when it comes up, and then and this play is so frustrating. Like I can only Gambit were ahead in the early game. They threw by not looking after they threw by not looking after the Baron, and then they throw again once they've got themselves back into the game.
In the spring split?
The European sniper is what he was called at the beginning of spring.
And here they are just throwing again. So I mean, at this point, with the Betsy kill, Gambit basically go on tilt in this game. I mean, there's no reason that that they should be engaging there. I mean, and it's clear that Gambit are tilting. Firstly, they have their main damage. Remember the last fight? Azir got a triple kill. Azir is still dead at this point, so he's flash engaging. He's using his flash, which is really important on Annie, to engage here into a 4v5 situation. I mean, that's foolish. It gives up his life, but the important thing is it means that Annie flashes down for the next Baron fight, and this is going to really, really matter. So, I mean, it's just such a bad play. I mean, like it can't really tower dive because Annie is pretty scary at this stage in the game, and they only have Rain over to tank the turret. But giving up the flash is really important. So Annie is now dead. So remember, Annie is dead. Lee Sin is dead. So Fnatic are now going to take the dragon. They take the tower. They get the kills. And the game is even now, and the game is hanging on a knife edge, but Gambit are going on tilt. And remember now, what if Annie and Lee Sin weren't dead, they could immediately be warding up this jungle and setting up a trap here. Like, I mean, because Edward gave away his flash, and he's not up, he's not alive in order to be able to ward this position up. And nor is Lee Sin, because Lee Sin also died there. But it wasn't Diamond's fault there. It was very much on Gosu Pepper. So if they ward deep here, then they can set up a good trap, and they can even threaten to pressure this thing. So this pink ward here is not cleared by Diamond, and this means that they know that they're setting up a trap, because if Diamond was going for Baron, he would have gone over this wall into this Baron pit. And this is one of the reasons why Fnatic don't check.
To then lock down Reckless, catch him out of position, because there's also the kills here from Yellowstar.
And we saw Cabo in base, those home guards ticking away, looking for somewhere to go in, but Gosu
they
armor soon. One shock blast is melting him.
But they should have much better vision control over this area. It's just because, yeah, and now they're poked out, and this means that they're... So this is just basically poor coordination, poor shot calling. I mean, yeah, they're very much on tilt here. There's no... All they have to do, remember, with the Sivir, it's so simple. Group with the Sivir, team fight, and win. I mean, that's all Gambit have to do. It's really simple. to quote an ex Counterlogic gaming mid laner. You know, it's so simple. Group with the Sivir, team fight, win. That's all you have to do, and they failed to do it. Yeah, and so off this they get the inhib and they get the Baron, and I'm not going to go through the end of the game basically. No, we're going to watch final team fight. So Gambit were ahead, massively ahead twice in the game. They threw twice, once Betsy pretty much by himself, although there were a few minor misplays about this, and immediately afterwards they pretty much go on tilt after Betsy goes and gets two shot by Jace Pope earlier, and then this cost them the game. But Gambit had a very good game plan coming into this game. And that's game, and that's Gambit going 10-0. Okay, so the story of this game, and the important thing to take from this game, is that although Fnatic are a very strong team and are particularly adept at playing poke champions composition, poke champions that are very strong in this metagame, poke champion compositions with good disengage, they are weak. There are weaknesses in their style of play. Okay, firstly, when they don't have Sivir, their team composition can be engaged on and punished, because they use the Sivir as one of their main disengage tools. And their sort of aggression, and especially their early game aggression before their sort of hybrid scaling compositions that Fnatic like to play have properly scaled, can be exploited by aggressive map movement and teleport plays. So here's what you saw Kabashar doing. You saw him using his teleport very, very well when he was stronger than Huni, and making plays and getting gold and snowballing the rest of the map off his advantage that he had in lane. And this is something which teams that play against Fnatic can do often, because Fnatic will often pick sort of late game scaling top laners like Ryze or like Echo and that sort of thing. Although Echo isn't too bad early game, but I mean you really want him for when he scales into late game. However, despite the fact that they can be punished, and despite the fact that they can be behind in the early game, Fnatic still sort of make smart heads up plays that aggressively punish mistakes and mispositionings from the enemy team. So think about the Huni kill with Echo that snowballed the game against Origin. Think about the Baron play against Gambit. And this means that in Europe, where teams are slightly prone to making mistakes, this means that they can still win games even when their over-aggressiveness in the early game is punished. And in the next game, I'm going to have a quick look at how if I was coaching a team, I would go about trying to punish this aggression from Gambit. Okay, that's the end of video 3.